is that I'm gonna ask her some questions, and she's gonna fill you in on this very compelling story.
And this is totally unrehearsed.
Totally improvisational. Okay.
You don't want us to not see it.
No, I don't want you to not see it. Okay. So, my first question, to which I hope you'll be as expansive as you like, and imagine us being on Book TV, is this. Processions, The Art of Norman Lewis, is one of the most fascinating documents I've ever seen produced in print on African American art. Full of mysteries, full of fascinating counter narratives, as well as extraordinarily beautiful illustrations of the paintings, works on paper, of a previously lost or missed by most of us African American artists. I would love to know as much as you would like to share with us about how you came to be engaged in this 15-year-long project, why it took so long, and what was involved.
Okay, I'm going to, the images you see back here are of Norman Lewis's, and I'm going to pass around
She has some.
this group of things that are also by him, because we weren't sure how much anybody would know about him. If they're not obviously representational, here's an arrow telling you which is up. And then the book has a lot of other pictures in it too. Should we pass it around?
Well, yeah, I guess we could pass around a copy. These are my personal copies, one of which I want you to sign, or two of which I want you to
Anyway,
sign.
Norman Lewis was born in 1909, and he
And
died.
if you know, pass it on to somebody who needs to look.
And he died in 1979, and he was born in Harlem and spent most of his life in Harlem. He moved downtown in 1967 when he bought a loft space on Grand Street, and he made bigger pictures after that because he had bigger space after that. As far as how I got interested in him, I think some of his most beautiful and important works are his works on paper. I was a works on paper curator for many years, and generally people don't take works on paper quite as seriously as they take paintings and sculpture for reasons that I've never understood. They tend to be a little less expensive, so I think that's part of it. They tend to be fragile, so that could be part of it, and they tend to be done in greater numbers, so they are less rare. So if Norman Lewis did 2,000 works, and I saw about 1,000, there are no studio records, so there's no way to know how many he actually did, but the guess of Karen Fuller, who oversees his estate now and is the daughter of his widow, Wita Lewis, she thinks there are about 2,000 works. And if there are about 2,000 works, 1,500 of them or 1,600 of them are on paper. So you're much more apt to see works on paper. But that's what I got interested in, and at the end of the day, if I thought people took works on paper more seriously, that's what I would have done, is an exhibition of works on paper, because they still are the most amazing works of his. What he does on paper, nobody else does anything like them. Not that his paintings aren't distinctive as well, they are, but the works on paper are amazing. Anyway, so I've known the works on paper for about 30 years, 25 years. And in 1999 to about 2002, I did an exhibition. I was working on an exhibition of Romeo Bearden's work for the National Gallery. And so I visited everybody I could find who had works by Bearden. And what I discovered is that everybody in the African American community who had works by Bearden also had works by Lewis. This was not the case in the white community, but there was no serious collector of African American art that didn't have a work by Lewis, and that didn't see Lewis as a hero. And I fell in love with the paintings as well, because I had that opportunity to see them. Now, the last show of Lewis's that I could have seen was in 1998, and my husband died that year, so I didn't get to the Studio Museum exhibition, but that was the major exhibition before the exhibition that we did. The difference between that exhibition and the one we did is that it was smaller. It focused on works from 1945 on, which is when he became an abstract painter. And so it didn't include any of the representational works that I'm passing around and that you'll see up here. And it was called The Black Paintings. And so it focused on paintings that used the color black in them. And as a result, almost everything I've read about Norman Lewis after that show was that he was a painter of black paintings. And what I had learned was that he was a brilliant colorist. And so one of the things that was important to me in the show that we did was not to say there are no black paintings. There are a lot of very important black paintings, but he's a brilliant colorist. And I think that does come out as you page through the book. And you also, if you page through the book carefully, will see that there's a 12-page section that are just works on paper. And that's my present to myself. That's the sort of drawing show I haven't done, and then I'm hoping somebody younger than me will do, because I don't think I have another show with me. But anyway, there's a section on prints, on drawings, and there's also a section on prints. And his prints are very little known, except for a few. And that's because most of them weren't done in editions. And there are 38 in the book, and there's one, the book is already outdated, just so you understand the problem with publishing. There's one more print that I didn't know about that I now know about. So the print section is outdated, and we have a wonderful chronology. One of the reasons it took so long to do the show is it was very hard to get information about Lewis. When I got started actually working on the show, let's say 5 years ago, having sort of gathered everything together I could find up till that point, I made a chronology, and it was 12 pages long, double-spaced, and I read it, and I thought this must be the dumbest chronology I've ever read in my life, in the sense that nothing was specific on it. It said he went to Columbia. It didn't say what he studied. It didn't say what he went. He did this, he did that. He was in the Merchant Marine. His family, his parents are from Bermuda. Well, we don't even know if that's true. And if anyone who reads the catalog, as far as I know, it's not. His father said he was from St. Kitts, but he sailed from Bermuda. And we do have the record of them sailing from Bermuda.
Do you know where the mother was from?
I think the same place, but there's no paper on her. But there is paper where he says he's from St. Kitts. Now in Bermuda, they want him to be Bermudian, I can tell you. He's Bermudian in Bermuda. And I spent 3 days in Bermuda trying to find some evidence. I didn't find any. And by the time I knew about the St. Kitts document, it was too late. And so I never got to St. Kitts to see what I could find.
But there certainly are signs of his involvement and interest in working in culture in New York, in the work, in terms of the procession. In his catalog, which is just really fascinating to see the way in which the stories of his life are constructed. What I'm interested in is, for a long time, I've been teaching Jacob Lawrence and collecting his work. One of the reasons, and teaching him in every area of African American culture where the years or the subject matter is relevant. Like if Frederick Douglass, then I do Jacob Lawrence's Frederick Douglass series. I just throw him in everything. And part of the reason is because I want people who don't usually know about art or are interested in art to have the tools. And I send them really small JPEGs, and I try to drop them into the paper and discussions. Romeo Bearden, of course, is a natural. And to me, it's fascinating to think about the difference between Romeo Bearden and Jacob Lawrence, because Jacob Lawrence has a whole different kind of identity. But one of the reasons why I teach Jacob Lawrence because it's so easy to get these images. It is so easy, and when you teach, that is extremely important. Now, you have answered for me a part of the puzzle of a contemporary, who I know who was close to Bearden, Norman Lewis, who is the most abstract of the group. But in the process of reading Ruth's work here and this show, what you'll get is why these three guys coexisted, dealing with and approaching the same issues and dilemmas, all Harlem-based, all having trouble making money, all determined to make art regardless of whether anybody bought it or not. In other words, faced with the same problems, but responding to them differently. And Norman Lewis and I know Norman Lewis and Romeo Bearden were very close.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting to think that if Romy had not, you know, I think of him as being very abstract. I really do. You know, like Picasso at least. But if he hadn't had some of those things we can hold on to, you know, the images of the women, or I don't know, Oedipus, or that was so important in terms of the canonical role that Romeo Bearden has now. At the same time that I think in terms of the issue of abstractions versus realism, that he was more of the thinking of Norman Lewis than he was of J.P. Lawrence about the role of it.
Well, and he started out as an abstract painter, and so his interest in abstraction, I think, never totally went away. Norman Lewis at a certain point said that he felt that painting that depicted social issues really was preaching to the choir, that there was no point in that if you were going to be a political person, you should be political in your life, not in your art. Now that's what he said. I'm not sure that's what he did. In fact, I'm quite sure that he didn't do that, but that's what he said. And I think he said it because I think he really did believe in the importance of abstraction. I think Norman Lewis is referred to as a social realist and an abstract expressionist. And I try to make the point that I don't think he's either of those things. I don't think he was ever a social realist because I think his representational work always had an overlay of his knowledge of Cubism and Futurism and all of the early modernist movements. In his very earliest work, the closest he comes to social realism is in the drawing of the African mask that is being passed around, and if you were reproduced in here, there he's really trying to be realistic, to represent that mask as he saw it. I don't think he did that with almost anything else at any time. By the same token, while he did do many totally abstract paintings in terms of what we see, I don't think he ever really let go of looking at the figure. Many late drawings that are very modeled and round, I mean, they're nudes, they're not abstractions, but you almost have to know that. You have to have seen one. Some of them look more like nudes than others, and if you see one, then you realize what the others are. So many of the images anyway, when they're going back, you'll see, have figures in them. The procession was the title of the show because I think it's, it happens again and
including
again.
the March on Washington, marches on Selma, carnivals, parades.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things it says in your catalog too about the West Indian festivals and carnivals. Now, when I grew up in Harlem, there was a parade every weekend. Every weekend. So it wasn't just the West Indians who were marching. Everybody was marching and carnivaling. I don't know what happened, and maybe all the Harlem Nights picked up. I know those, what are the people who used to wear the white outfits? Somebody, my daughter.